Rich, like many African Americans of my generation, and of my generation is also of your generation.
Yep.
As a New Yorker in my 40s, I grew up without a gun in the house.
Yes, especially it depends where. Especially if you lived in the five boroughs, having
Correct.
a firearm in the home, unless you were employed in some kind of either the police or a protective agency, or you were a store owner and it could prove that you were using lots of cash back and forth to the bank, it was next to impossible to get a firearm, especially a pistol, within the five boroughs.
To my parents, gun ownership was politically unacceptable, but more morally wrong. And a lot of times, along with that, there was some form of trouble or tragedy. But Rich, during that same timeline, many folks in the South had a different tradition.
Yes, completely different tradition. In the South, having a gun is just like having pocket change.
Wow.
I mean, it is. Let's face it. I mean, besides the fact that in the South, we'll go along with long arms as well. You go to hunting, and hunting is just a part of life in the South and in the West and pretty much everywhere except the coasts. But also, in the South, having a handgun for protection is, you wouldn't walk out the house without it.
So in the South is a different tradition, and where black families, many of them fresh from the farms and the hunting rifles and sport to an extent with self-defense. Mm-hmm. Many gun owners buy their first guns and begin practicing at the gun range,
right,
wondering if the thought process was perhaps the Second Amendment is the black man's ultimate sign of full citizenship.
That sounds like it should be. I mean, granted, we're all citizens anyway, and, there's all kinds of debate over the Second Amendment itself. But, every citizen of the United States has the right to bear arms.
That is true. And for the previous 8 years,
mm-hmm.
I heard one side saying, they're going to take our guns away.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. He's going to take our guns. Well, he's out of office now.
Yes, he is.
So there was something that happened. There were a couple of big events. One, Donald J. Trump becoming elected president.
Yep.
And the incident that was streamed across the world, Philando Castile.
Yes.
Black gun owner, card-carrying member.
Yep. Legally carrying a firearm at the time of the event.
And I thought it was apropos to bring on a fellow African-American NRA, card-carrying member,
yep,
Mr. Ian McDonald. So, Ian, want to welcome you to the show.
Hello. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
How are you?
How you doing?
Excellent.
So
I just want to, before you go into it, I want to discuss, just briefly lay something out there.
Okay.
That was very germane to a comment that you made earlier. Individuals were screaming and crying that they're going to take our guns, but gun ownership actually skyrocketed during the Obama years.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
It really did.
Yes, it did.
So quite to the contrary, the Smith & Wesson, Springfield, they actually would prefer if President Obama remained in office because they sold more units.
Yep. There were more licenses applied for through the FBI background check in those 8 years, in each of those 8 years, than ever before.
More important than background checks and licenses to carry, because there's a distinction between a license to carry and the ability to purchase firearms.
Yes, that's true.
In many states, you don't even need your license to purchase a firearm. You can purchase because you are a registered resident of that state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to carry your gun, and let's go in another direction. You have some states that are considered open carry states,
right,
where there's no need to even apply for a firearm license. If you're carrying your weapon exposed, you're within your rights.
Right.
So let's not even count the applications for concealed carry permits. Let's just talk gun sales.
Right.
Gun sales, boom. Yeah.
That's true. Well, even when you make that pistol purchase, just the sale, not even the concealed carry permit, but you still got that FBI background, the background check at purchase time.
Yes, that you get. Yes,
and that's the
which
number.
I'm all for.
Yes, I agree. By the way, I am also a card carrying NRA member myself. And so I fully understand, the point you're making and those issues, because it's true that sales went up, people were scared, they bought more guns. But so as an African American, for some black gun owners, it's a tough question. And that question being, can African Americans be reasonably expect to be covered by the Second Amendment in a country where, let's face it, there's still plenty of racist rhetoric, racist attitudes, racist actions? What do you think? Can we feel that we can honestly be covered and protected and be able to exercise our rights under the Second Amendment?
Okay, well, the ability to do something and the right to do something are two different things.
Completely.
As a United States citizen, you have the right to bear arms. You have the right, according to your state, city, local jurisdiction, you have the right to every right that's available to any other person. Now, the ability to utilize that right, or the ability to exercise that right, is all in the hands of the law enforcement of that particular area.
Right.
That's where it gets kind of sticky. And there are several videos online where this is very clearly evident. Where one in particular, there was a white gentleman, and he said, "I'm going to walk down the street with the AR-15 in a sling on my back." He walks. The police, they come to him and they talk to him, but the approach that they came to him with was as if he wasn't a threat.
Right.
But then now the black gentleman did the same thing. The officer stood back about maybe 15 yards, exited his vehicle, holstered his weapon.
Here we go.
Pointed his weapon at the guy and made him lay down on the ground.
I'm familiar with the video.
Before he even approached him. So it's the perception is where the problems come in. Because again, a law is a law is a law. But the perception of the law in the hands of the individuals who are there to enforce the law is where the problems come in. And that's just a whole nother ball of wax that we can sit here talking about forever.
Right.
But let's just try to stay on topic. That's where the issues come into play.
I agree.
So I have a listing here that the Washington Post has found that unarmed black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than unarmed white men. But there are no...
Perception again.
Say it again?
Perception.
Okay.
The perception is... Now, I hate to keep cutting you off. But
No. Go ahead.
All right. Here's the thing. If a law enforcement officer stops a vehicle and he approaches the vehicle, it's the perception that he takes is how he's going to approach that vehicle. So now he's going to approach the vehicle. Again, I'm just speaking generally. I'm not speaking specifically. I'm not trying to paint broad brush law enforcement because I have a lot of family in law enforcement, which is very funny. But they approach the car driven by or containing black individuals as if they are the threat. But their own FBI statistics shows that who is more likely to shoot a police officer?
Right.
A white male.
Right. No, it's true. It's true. It's perceptions.
And when you put those statistics, when they tell you a statistic, African American is 90% chance getting killed by another African American. It's true, because you will tend to get killed or accosted by the people you're surrounded by.
Right.
But the flip side to that is 81 point something % of white people are killed by other white people.
Right.
But that's the other side of the coin that's not put out there with the statistic. So I mean, it's very interesting where you sit and you allow somebody to talk and you say, okay, well, you said this, but here's the rest of that statement that you failed to give.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's all in perception, because an officer has no clue of the intention of an individual who he's stopping. So I have all respect for them being apprehensive and being cautious, because you have no idea who you're approaching. But if it's showing that you're approaching a certain demographic differently than another demographic, that's the pure definition of bias.
Right. And that's the issue that we have at its core.
That is the exact issue.
But that again,
I mean, I'm a black guy. I've got into more arguments with black people than white people.
Right.
But because I grew up around black people, so it was very, very unlikely for me to have an argument with a white guy growing up in East New York, Brooklyn.
Right. Yeah.
It's just the reality of it.
No, that's understood. Hey, you're listening to Late Night Parents. Rich Valdez, Ted Hicks. We're speaking with Ian McDonald, and we are talking about the Second Amendment.
But we can segue into issues with firearms, or the reality is a gun, a rifle, a knife, a brick, anything by itself is not deadly. It's the intention of the individual using it that makes it a deadly weapon.
That's true.
If we just for some strange reason was able to snap our fingers and every firearm on the planet disappeared, the stabbings would go up.
Right.
People are going to do these things. If we took away all the knives, then people would start hitting each other with maces and clubs, because that's what we did. It's just now the firearm is where it's at.
Ian, as a wrap up question.
Yes.
I think one of the questions we initially asked. So, as a question to you, as a black gun owner, does the Second Amendment apply to African Americans? Yes or no?
It most certainly does apply to us. It most certainly does apply to us, and it is incumbent on any individual that wants to exercise his Second Right Amendment to go about it the right way and demand that his right or her right is respected. It's in black and white, for lack of a better word,
literally.
a better term. Yeah, it's literally in black and white. So if you go into court and you say, well, pursuant to statute, blah, 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 I have the right to do this. It's up to them, when I say them, meaning the people telling you it's not your right, to prove you wrong. Now, again, that's in the court of law. But then now, in the real world, the perception of individuals dictates what happens.
Right.
Which is totally contrary to law itself.
Right. Law is not supposed to be based upon perception. Law is based upon the rule and the actions taken thereof. Exactly. But if you look, it's all over the news, it's all over the internet, it's all in the paper, and you see for yourself the bias of the legal system. So theoretically, yes, it does apply to us, but the application of that law and the application of that right is where the difference lies. Yeah.
And individuals who continually flout these laws against you and are allowed to get away with it is why it continues to take place. Nobody's going to change unless they either A, want to, or they're being forced to. And if these officers or if the legal system isn't forced to, does it want to change? Right. Not going to.
Gotcha.
So all of these things kind of segue and they lead to bigger problems and bigger issues.
No, that's fair. That's a fair answer. I will tell you this much.
Yes.
This is the first time that you're on Late Night Parents, but definitely, I think this is a great starting point because this conversation, this dialogue needs to continue. Because I mean, as you know, you and I have been friends 20 plus years, and this topic has come up privately amongst us and some of our friends. So I like I said, I thought it was appropriate for you to provide subject matter on it because, you know, it's kind of like a lot of times people are just speaking from emotion.
Right.
But we definitely want to thank you for joining us, Ian, and we look forward to having you on in the very near future.
Most definitely. And before I go, I would just like to leave with I am definitely a proponent of people expressing or exercising their Second Amendment rights. But there also has to be the responsibility involved with it.
Yes.
I myself, I've taken NRA courses. I've gotten certified. I practice and utilize safe methods of handling firearms. Anybody around me, I make sure they're doing it, or I'm like, you can't handle this firearm around me.
Right.
Because along with a right comes a responsibility. And the responsibility to maintain your firearms within the laws that are prescribed to it. And if you do that, then I'm all for every and anybody who is legally able to obtain firearms. If you're on a no-fly list, no, you shouldn't have one. If you have mental issues, no, you should not have one. It's that simple. If you're a career criminal, you shouldn't have one.
Right.
So gun laws really should be about common sense.
You hate to use that word.
As opposed to furthering an agenda.
Yeah, you hate to have to use that common sense word.
It's about furthering an agenda now.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Ian, we want to thank you once again.
Thank you. I appreciate coming on.
All right.
It's been a pleasure, Ian.
It's always a pleasure, Mr. Hicks.
Take care, brother.
All right. You have a great day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.